How you doing, guys? A wee bit delayed in the kickoff tonight, but it's the Derby Day podcast. It's the eve of the biggest Celtic Rangers game for years. Tomorrow at 12 o'clock at Ibrox. Chance to go 6 points clear for Celtic, or Rangers can close the gap to just goal difference. Tonight, as I say, sponsoring the show again, 67 Timmaloy Apparel. Get on them, get on Instagram and get any Celtic t-shirts that they've got, kind of thing. Message you guys, are really, really good with their products. John's obviously back on the show. Your regular pundit, he's going to be on Team Celtic tonight. And obviously, one of my mates, Billy McLellan, he is going to be on backing Rangers tonight, obviously. So, guys, thanks for coming on.
Hi, no bother.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Looking forward to it.
It's great to be back on again, mate, and especially good given that hopefully Celtic's going to win the league. It's good to be on to discuss what our trophy celebrations are going to be and where they're going to be.
No.
Touch wood. So as I say, we're available to download on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your podcast. We're also streaming on YouTube tonight, as well as Twitter and our Facebook page. Get involved, any Celtic or Rangers fans that's watching tonight. Get involved. We want to hear from everybody. And obviously, I'm just going to share the posts. As I say, like, Billy is actually a DJ. So if you're ever looking for a DJ, he's your man. Just and obviously John, TikTok star, TikTok Celtic content, and obviously, am I right in saying Football Limited? Is that your company?
Fitbar is the company. Yep. And we do like football equipment for kind of recreational purposes. So guys, head over to TikTok, follow at fitbar.ltd, and you can see my content.
Good stuff. So as I say, guys, lots to get through. Obviously, we're going to be talking about both teams' form going into the game. We're going to be talking about the last two derbies so far this season, injuries and suspensions, who's going to miss out. We're going to be doing a Celtic Rangers combined for this season. And we'll get your team predictions and your score predictions, as well as talking about a topic that I know John wanted to talk about last time with Gianni, the Sydney Cup saga. Obviously, there's been developments there, kind of thing. So as I say, like, we will start with the Sydney Cup saga actually. The Barbie Derby, what next for Rangers as they pulled out of Sydney? Billy, I'm going to come to you first. Are you surprised at the timing?
Nah, I don't really know about it. Like, it sounds like a good idea, but it just, I don't know. It just, the timing, and obviously it was packaged as a sort of deal towards Ange and stuff. It didn't really bother me personally. I can get why a Rangers fan would be upset with it, depending on where they sit. But at the same point, I also feel for the Rangers fans in Australia that we got to see Rangers live. So you're like, there's a lot of different aspects to it for me, but it didn't bother me personally. But I can see why it would bother someone a wee bit more hardcore than myself.
And John, do you think, obviously, looking at the protests in the last two games probably and the disruption it's caused, do you think Rangers were probably thinking, we don't really want to see that in Sunday's game potentially?
Well, that's a possibility, but I think it was more, from looking at it from an outside perspective, I think it was more to do with the fact that, it was all surrounding Ange's homecoming, and, it was built up and advertised as Ange's homecoming by the organisers. And I don't think Rangers felt as though that was accommodating of where they would stand, maybe if it was a different country, there'd be a different outcome, but I think it was mainly, a build-up of feelings. So whether it came out on Sunday or not is kind of somewhat irrelevant. I think it was always going to be controversial, no matter what.
Yeah, and obviously I think in terms of, I don't know what the implications are now financially, whether or not, it depends on obviously what's been said in the contract, kind of thing, between the two clubs, or between the three clubs rather. But I mean, listen, obviously it's I'm not sure what happens now with tickets, as you say, Billy. There's Rangers fans that purchase tickets to go over there and watch your team play Celtic in a massive, massive stadium. I think something like 80,000 the Sydney Olympic Stadium holds. Do you think there can be such a thing as a friendly between Celtic and Rangers, even if it is out of Scotland?
I don't know. I think it takes away a wee bit for it. I think see when you watch like Liverpool and Man United playing in America and that, I just look at it and I'm like, anybody that goes and gets geared up for that it's just silly. It's not, for a start, they're both not playing strong teams.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to say, oh, it's a hatred, it's a derby, and you look at it and it just looks like diet. It's just not get the same feel, and I'd imagine that Rangers and Celtic would be the same, if not worse, because that is an actual ferocious derby. I'm not a big fan of the Liverpool Man United kind of, oh, that's a pure big, that's even people like to say to me, it's a big derby, and I just laugh. I can't even argue anymore. It's just, they don't understand. But
yeah,
so it's just looking like that, and I'm like, but I feel I've got family in Australia, in Adelaide, and they probably would have went to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like some in Melbourne, so I think they were maybe pro it because it's like, oh man, we get to see a game, but I don't know. I just think that it would maybe make it just not feel, just wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, and John, obviously, when you look at it, the timing of it, I think it would have been 16th to 20th of November. I'm not sure of the exact date, but in terms of with the World Cup potentially coming into that kind of era at the time of the calendar year, potentially Scotland could be there. So, the Celtic Rangers will have a lot of players missing potentially for the game. So, do you think it's probably for the best that Celtic, don't face Rangers, or do you think were you looking forward to it?
I was thinking it was a good publicity stunt. I think it'd be good to get the brand out there and get, obviously, just get the two teams on paper, get them out there, and get to a different country and show them, what they're made of. I still think that there was, a point to be made about, commercialisation, and I think Celtic and Rangers will hopefully in the future get the right intentions regarding this, but to play each other is a little bit touchy. I can appreciate that. I still think it would have worked because you've got the likes of like the Soccer Sixes or the Masters football, which again, I think Celtic's played Rangers before, and I think there's been like rivalries in that sense, albeit it's like a friendly. It's more like a neutral game that hasn't amounted to anything, but still gets the brand out there. So I don't think it would have meant much, but I still would have think it was a good payout for both teams. Obviously I know there was a bit of dubiety regarding how much certain teams were getting paid, but I was pro it actually. In the end I was actually for it. Whether it goes ahead or not, I don't know.
I think it will go ahead. To be fair, I think they'll obviously just draft another team in there. So we're going to put the question of the day to you guys at home watching. What do you think the score will be tomorrow at Ibrox? Get your score predictions into us. Billy, what are you going to say, mate?
You're talking about teams there. I was like, how do you not invite St. Pauli?
That's a shout.
I mean, I think that's a great idea.
I
can appreciate that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm an avid follower of Hamburg or anything, but I mean, obviously there's that little connection, and it just everybody that I know it's a really kind of obviously die hard has always got something St. Pauli on. So I was like, surely they're free for a couple of weeks.
They might be. They
might not be, but I mean, they could maybe get one of those sabbaticals for their league for a couple of weeks to make some money. But
I mean, the thing is, obviously, in terms of like, I think it is tailor made for the Australian Celtic and Rangers fans. That's where it was always geared up for, because I think the tournament was like 4 days. Nobody for here is potentially going to Australia for 4 days. It probably takes you 4 days, to get over jet lag.
I've travelled. You've
been, so obviously you're not going for a friendly, potentially. So, but listen, we'll move on, guys, and we'll talk about obviously Celtic Rangers. A few comments coming in. Dale Boy O'Reilly, get on his page, get on his podcast. Brilliant Celtic content as well for Dale. Hugh O'Neill, Glasgow Derby, hail, and Claire Monaghan, Coybig, Mon the Hoops, says Elaine Turner. Chris Gilligan, early with the score prediction, says 2-0 Celtic. Gary Lamwell came to the page. He's also saying 2-0 Celtic. Go right from the start and win tomorrow. League's done. 6 points behind Boxing Day, soon to be 6 points ahead. What a turnaround. James McMullen says 3-0 to Celtic. Jota to score first. And Danny Bowie, I think he's talking about the Sydney Cup saga. So obviously that's what all the Celtic fans have been saying as well. Rosie Gallagher, another Celtic fan. We want to hear for Rangers fans as well. Get involved. Listen, I know it's really, really tough for us to share this on Rangers pages because, you know, some of them don't want to come on because it's a Celtic podcast. But listen, we're talking about Celtic and Rangers tonight. That's a bit of a prediction there for Kieran. I don't know if he's been on the hard stuff already.
Kieran's my cousin, thankfully. Kieran's my cousin, so he comes up with bewildering scores and actually gets them right sometimes. So
I'm not super confident, but if they win 6-0, I'll come on and show and do a striptease.
There you go. Heard it here first.
But listen, it's probably going to be 6-1, so I'll probably be safe.
Yeah, I'll get to 6 now. You were praying for a Celtic.
I'll be deleting everything, any sign of me off the internet.
And Rosie Gallagher obviously says Rangers get a penalty. So listen, who knows? Aye, well, you know, Tavernier, we'll talk about Tavernier's penalty record kind of thing. So as I say, like, we want you guys to get involved. So any questions or comments, you know, get them into us and the guys. We'll get through them. So listen, let's talk about form, guys. Rangers getting into the game, 7 unbeaten, Billy, since that 3-0 defeat at Celtic Park. You know, 2 clean sheets in McGregor's last 5. And but there's a problem with scoring goals, apparently. You know, when you look at the last 5 games, we've only scored 7 goals. So, you know, obviously it's something they need to address tomorrow. How do you see them starting the game?
We were talking a wee bit before we started that. That's pretty much what I was saying to you. I just think that Rangers can't change their tactics to suit Celtic. That's every time in the past few years that they've done that, Celtic have ate them up. Even at the time before Rangers even before like last season and winning the league back and stuff, I thought that Gerrard was really bad for it in the beginning. He just comes in and he would look at Celtic's team and highlight where the problems were, who we've got to look at, and he would change his tactics to suit Celtic. And I've never seen it work. It's different if you're like one of the smaller teams and you're changing your tactics to combat what Celtic and Rangers can do to you. And you see it in England as well, even like kind of Everton doing it against Man City. But if you're Celtic or Rangers, you should be going into the game with your own set of tactics and with plenty of your strengths. When you change your game plan, it puts it right off. And I've seen it with Gerrard and I've seen it in the last game with Gio. Changed his tactics and Celtic absolutely steamrolled him. So he needs to just play his own game.
And John, obviously, when you combat that with Celtic, you know, they've got the best away record in the league. You know, top of the charts in so many kind of best defence. But in terms of 4 clean sheets in the last 6 for Joe Hart, you know, and 12 goals in the last 4 games, obviously culminating in that Ross County game. You know, do you think that can work in our favour? Do you think there's a negative for playing too well almost going into these games?
So, sometimes, you know, you've got to look at it from a perspective that this game comes up 4 times, 5 times a year, and it's one in which is taken in isolation. You know, not to say form goes out the window. Form's obviously a great thing to have, and both teams have the form in some way. But you know, if you're looking at Celtic have obviously come into it a little bit in terms of the amount of goals we're scoring, the volume of goals, and the clean sheets we've been keeping has been pretty decent as well. So yeah, hopefully that's the kind of the case going forward. You know, and we get a result. But you know, it'll be an interesting game because I think it's got everything set up and it's got everything that you'd want from, you know, the final days of the season. You want this head-to-head. You want this close, tight-knit league table. And yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, as I say, a few comments there. Keith Corcoran, come on the Hoops Celtic. He'll be on at 9:30, I think he said. So, you know, get on to Come On the Hoops Celtic page and, you know, get all your comments and questions into him as well. 25 game unbeaten run in the league. He says, Peter Crawford Conlon says 2-0 to Celtic. I'm not seeing many Rangers comments here. Thomas Hopkinson, same as every old firm. Whoever wins the midfield battle can see Rangers going free at the back, pushing wing back up and keep Jota and Abada back. And Kieran obviously says Celtic will beat Rangers. PS is talking about Cup about clean sheets. He's talking crap about clean sheets, right? So as I say, like, it's form does go out the window sometimes, but obviously, I think both teams are playing incredibly well. I think there'll be goals in this tomorrow. I really do. I think both teams are going to go at it for the start. It's going to be 100 mile an hour right for the start. And it's going to be a case of who can pin the other team back first, kind of thing. If Celtic start like we did in February, Rangers could be in trouble. But ultimately, how will kind of Starfelt and Carter Vickers deal with Rangers if they go right for the start. Last 5 games, then obviously, when you look at the European, we talked, Billy, beforehand about the European games for Rangers this season, and obviously the kind of results afterwards, that European hangover. We've dropped points to Motherwell and Dundee United. Do you think that has been a major hindrance in terms of where you are in the league?
Definitely. I think. Do you know what I said to you earlier? I don't think it should have. I mean, they've got a big enough squad to be able to rotate a couple of people in and play. But I thought they were really unlucky in those 2 games. Like, everything that could have went against them did, kind of. And you've got to put your hands up. The Motherwell one, less so than the Dundee United one was just littered with should-have-beens, red cards, penalties, everything, and the pullback in Morelos and that. And that's the one for me this season that I said, do you know what, maybe VAR might help. I mean, it'll get a lot of other things probably wrong because nobody else can date properly either. But like those sort of decisions. But then at Motherwell one, even though there was decisions like that, I watched that entire game and I was like, how did Rangers draw that? How? It just was unfathomable. I just was like, I walked away and I was just gobsmacked. But that's it. That's what these teams can do. I thought Motherwell were really, I mean, they didn't really do a lot, but what they did was really good. And that was the issue. They came out and they never gave up. A lot of teams would have gave up but they just kept fighting and they got something for it. Fair play to them.
And I think, because when I look back to that day and I can remember I nearly burst a blood vessel watching Hibs v Celtic earlier in the day, and we obviously dropped points to Hibs. And I thought, we spoke again off air about we go back to the good old days when you would actually look across the city to the other team's result and see how they've done. And I almost kind of switched off after that Hibs game because I thought, right, Rangers will take. Basically, my hope for that game was that Rangers weren't going to take 5 or 6 off of Motherwell. And I think when you went 2-0 up, and I checked it and I thought, game's done. So obviously I was just, Sunday afternoon, was just chilling, waiting in the Liverpool-Chelsea Cup final. It came on. And I don't know what made me check it. And I thought, do you know what, I'll just check it. And I actually thought I was seeing things when I seen it was 2 each. Because genuinely, I thought, how has that happened? Especially when Celtic have dropped points. Is there a mentality at Ibrox that they can't seem to... Do you think when you look at behind closed doors and the fans, when there was no fans in, and obviously Rangers go and win the league by 20 odd points, 25 points, do you think there is an element of extra pressure when the fans are there at Ibrox?
Aye, I mean, I've actually been quite a lot this season. Like, I've not been able to go just due to commitments. That like, a lot of time I was doing like DJ work on a Saturday, so I've struggled. But whenever I've got time off, I would try and get some. Sometimes I didn't get it, but I've been to a couple, and most, as I'm saying, I watched the full game. I'm like, we played excellent there, but we probably didn't get as many goals as we should have got, and that's the ruthlessness. That's why we find ourselves the goal difference is high a swing as it is, because Rangers haven't been ruthless. And I think that when it was all easy-ozy last season and there was nobody on their back, I think they were easier to express themselves, and you could sit and say, oh, that's good, they're better footballers and stuff. But no, do you know what? They need that, because see, if they're not performing, then they'll be on their back and they'll know about it, and that's a key element as well. As they can play as good as they want, but see, unless they've got the fans roaring them on or roaring to get back into a game, then that is another element that keeps them going. And so you kind of need both. You can't just have one. Obviously, that season was a once in a generation season. It'll probably never happen again. But that's the situation we found ourselves in. It was either that or no football. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You can kind of say, oh, the Celtic fans, oh, there was no fans. But, I mean, they still played the football. They still won the games. But so now you're seeing the hangover of that. Like, okay, yeah, well, Rangers are a lot of times this season are still playing amazing football. But the problem is now they're finding themselves in difficult situations, putting somebody away, which is not helping when, like, certain players are missing for your kind of key players. Like, they've got good players that come in, but I don't think they're not hitting the ground running enough. Like Roof, I think Roof's a great striker, but he's never going to play if Morelos is fit, which I don't really believe in. I mean, as much as you're relying on Morelos, which is going to be a big thing for tomorrow, but I think that Roof should be played more because just you're throwing him in and expecting miracles.
And that's the thing. Obviously, you know, we'll touch on Morelos as well missing tomorrow. Thomas Hopkinson said gutted Morelos is missing it. Was feeling on the fence, but confident if we turn up like we should, we can get the 3 points. But without Morelos, it takes so much of our game away. Mr. Ramsey's game to shine. For me, I was probably on the fence about the whole Morelos thing because I don't know if I said to you last week, John, I thought it was a ploy. You know, I thought the last 2 games that he came off, you know, he went and he was holding his thigh and he was kind of, the ice pack was on it, and the thing is that I genuinely thought it was a ploy to get out of international duty, and B, I thought it was him wanting to basically be rested for this game coming up. So I genuinely was up until we seen it in Sky Sports yesterday. I thought, I'm not having it. He's playing. I'm not having it. He's playing. So.
Sorry if you're looking at me and I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at that whole scenario there. Like, trying to get out of international duty. I wish he was trying to get out of international duty. Look, man, we've dropped so many points when he's been away and sitting in the stands having a cup of Coke. Do you know what I mean? 3 games he sat and watched Colombia score no goals.
Aye.
It's baffling. I understand that patriotism and he wants to represent his country and be away with those, because some of them players are world class. Do you know what I mean? But the whole point is, you're going away and the manager doesn't think you're good enough to be in like a 26-man squad or a 23-man squad. And
you look at it conversely. Say for example, Morelos did stay and he did get like the rehab, he did get like the training, the recovery, the physios. Like, could have been available for this Sunday. That's a possibility. You know, that's the risk you're taking.
Do you know what? It's that, but then I would even go back further and say, see, because of Colombia, he missed, like, I'm pretty sure I'm not 100% on the games, but we definitely dropped quite a few points when he wasn't here, and he was sitting in a stand.
Aye, like, yeah, listen, you don't mind if these players go and play for a country and they're playing, you know, and things like that. But it is a bit baffling when he didn't decide to play him the last time. John, obviously, but you know, I've talked about it, touched about is that Celtic have got the best away record in the league. You know, culminating in that Livingston win at the Tony Macaroni, which you were there. You know, how massive is that to get off our back? And I know we've already, you know, beaten Aberdeen. I think we beat Aberdeen. I think it was our first away victory in the league since last February. You know, we beat Hibs for the first time at Easter Road since 2014. It was another hoodoo we got off our back by beating Livy. Do you think there's an air of confidence that doesn't seem to be there at Celtic Park as much?
I don't know why that is. I mean, it's again, at Celtic Park, I'm not saying that we've been playing bad. I think we've been playing, you know, reasonable at Celtic Park. I don't think it's been poor in any way, shape or form, but I think, you know, our away record has been good. Obviously, you take the 0-0 against Hibs, you know, into perspective, and you take away the 0-0 against St Mirren back in December into perspective. But across the whole, you know, getting those little results, even against Livingston, you know, that's fantastic. You know, going there to actually play good football. And I actually really enjoyed the game at the end, because we actually managed to win. And I think it was like 20 years or whatever, however many years, 17 years since we'd last won there. So, you know, it's good in that sense. You just hope that it continues. Yeah,
and obviously, just the comments coming through, Anne Claire Monin says, I think there's a strong possibility that Morelos could be sent off. Too much of a hothead for the derby. We've always seen that before. Obviously, he scored once against Celtic in 5 years. Has he no? He's not that much of an asset. I think he's scored probably more than once, not by many. I think he scored maybe 2 or 3. But I think in terms of, obviously, we'll get onto injuries and suspensions, to be honest. There's obviously, I don't think there's any players suspended tomorrow, and apart from long-term injuries, Billy, Morelos obviously is the only kind of player that I know that is out tomorrow. In terms of you've obviously been speaking about Roof. Would you have started Roof tomorrow regardless if Morelos was fit?
It's hard to. That's what you were talking about Morelos there, and I read some of the comments saying that he's only scored so many goals. It's not even about the goals. It's what he gives the team. I think he works harder off the ball than a lot of people and anybody in the division. Well, I watch Rangers all the time, but I mean, I would imagine every club has that player. And even though he's a goal scorer, he seems to be that player as well. He works, and he's just tireless, and that is what he gives you. He just happens to score a lot of goals as well, but I think that's what he gave, and I can totally understand the hothead, but I mean, he's really toned it down this season. I would actually go back. I remember a tweet came up from my timeline, and it was me absolutely going crazy because he'd been sent off, and I can't even remember what the result was, but I don't even know if it was a Celtic game. It might have been Aberdeen because he's been sent off a few times against them, but it was just, and I was going crazy, and I just was like myself, wow, that's like younger me. Only a couple of years, right enough, but younger me. But I was looking at it and I was just like, do you know what? Like, it's like night and day from then and now. He does get stupid yellow cards, and I think his reputation kind of leads and precedes him, but I think he's toned it down enough that you could say, do you know what, a wee bit of passion isn't too bad, but you never know. Like, this could be a big lull, and then he could just go mental again in one of the games.
And obviously Aaron Ramsey, he came in January and an unexpected deal. I still really thought that was a wind up until the point they'd signed him. Obviously he missed the last derby game at Celtic Park. You'd imagine that he's going to get pitched in tomorrow.
I think he'll play because he played like 80 odd minutes in the last game, depending on where the obviously physios think how his fitness is. I thought he looked quite fit, which was a surprise. I mean, I didn't expect him to be unfit, but I did when he was playing. I was like, he'll maybe last 60, that push. But I mean, he was on to like 83 or something like that, 82.
I think there was a doubt kind of thing, a scare almost among Rangers fans that, because he played in the qualifier against Austria for Wales, but then obviously was rested, wasn't in the squad against the Czech Republic for the friendly. But Rob Page is obviously the manager of Wales, has obviously said that, there's no injury there. He just wanted to rest him up for Sunday's game, to let him go and enjoy the game, which tells me that potentially I think he starts tomorrow. Do you see there being any kind of surprises in the team tomorrow?
I don't know. See, because of what happened last time, I think that in the way he's been picking his teams recently, I think he'll throw something. I don't know what, but I mean, he's had a few kind of, I wouldn't say strange as anything, because obviously it's still a good selection, but I think that recently he's played some people and they're like, what's this thing there? Like Lundstrom at centre back and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think that, I mean, when you look at Lundstrom, how he's came on in the last couple of months, I mean, he was almost cast off as a dud, and then he just was absolutely amazing for like 6 weeks there, like up until a couple of weeks ago, and then he's not really done anything that you could say lit up the game. But I mean, the kind of moment when he was playing and he scored a goal against Dortmund, like the preceding and the kind of weeks after, he was excellent for about 6 weeks, and I was like, right, he's going to keep his place in the team all the time. And then a couple of weeks later, he's getting drafted in as a centre back. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan, but I'm obviously going to back a manager. But I just think that when you take that, you take it away, it gives a wee bit further up the park. So I don't know. I'm a big Borna Barisic fan, even though he got absolutely hung out like in the last game, and I felt sorry for him because he should have got took off earlier than that. But because he just wasn't at it, and you can sit and say maybe 2 of the goals was his fault. I like Calvin Bassey. I would always play him at left back. I'm not a big fan of him coming in centre back either. Like he is my number one left back right now because of what he does. But he makes mistakes. He's young. He's going to make mistakes. But I think he automatically revert back and go, oh, Borna Barisic has played for Croatia in some of the biggest games ever and that. And you're like, do you know what? That doesn't matter. It's all about form and how you're playing now and how your team's doing. And Borna Barisic wasn't playing very well, and you get put into basically for the Lions to chew him up.
Aye, I mean, I think as you say, these games have potential for managers to throw a curveball in there, kind of thing. For me, I'm not a fan of Bassey. I think he'd be better with Shirley Bassey, but I think to be honest, I just don't see. I think a lot of defenders, a lot of players that come up against him kind of give him an easy ride almost. I don't see what the big hoo-ha is about him, but obviously, listen, you obviously see Rangers a lot more than me. John, massive news by Ange at the press conference. Full squad, barring James Forrest, which was, considering it was April Fool's Day, I think a lot of Celtic fans, when they want to buy it, they were like, no, we're not buying it, we're not biting. But obviously it was a genuine press conference, and Ange really did say that Kyogo is fit. Does Kyogo start tomorrow?
I don't think he starts. I think the Giakoumakis and Maeda, I think the two of them start, up top along with Jota, and Abada will come on later on in the game, I think. But in the terms of having all these players fit, it's a great asset that Celtic's got. Celtic have got options to bring on. It's looking really good actually for Celtic to have the ability to bring on Tom Rogic or a Turnbull or a Abada if we're struggling. And equally as well, we've got options in defence, whether we're going to start Taylor or Ralston, maybe Welsh might have a chance at some point. Who knows? we've got that many options that it's it's looking good. In terms of that, James Forrest I thought was is a little bit of a miss, but again, if you're going to have a full squad, that's fantastic. And even Rogic, could we see him?
I think I don't know if he'll start him tomorrow. It depends on obviously how fit he is. I know that he didn't go to Australia, and he got sent home for Australia, and obviously I know he wasn't training the first week he came back, and then obviously they were having a look at him. So potentially he is 100% fit, and he goes into that team tomorrow. For me, I probably think he starts on the bench. But in terms of, obviously, as you say, James Forrest is a big miss for Celtic. He's been playing really well. But for me, for Celtic to have a full quota almost to choose from, I think it's massive for the manager. And I think Kyogo, as I said last night, Kyogo is probably going to be the danger off the bench for the last 20, 30 minutes, as Michael Heggie says. Yeah,
who comes out?
Who comes out
for Kyogo? If he played, who would you drop?
Oh, if he played, Maeda, Dyson Maeda for me.
I'm just curious because I don't really, obviously, I know you guys watch him every week, but from what I've seen, obviously, I actually didn't rate Giakoumakis at all. Like, I thought this is going to be one of them ones that, you've had a few over the years that you buy, and then you go, oh, he's a big name, he's going to be brilliant, and he ends up just not doing anything. But obviously, he's turned that around in the last couple of months. But like, he's lit a fire up with Rangers fans anyway. That's what he's done.
Well, that's the thing. We were going to talk about that because one of my mates was doing the other week and he was saying, that was the comments, especially the ones for Giakoumakis, is basically that should be pinned up in the Ibrox dressing room wall tomorrow.
Should have it playing in the speakers in the dressing room like before the game. I was like, that's all you need, but you know what? Probably won't. But hey,
do you know what? Like, this is where I feel sorry for Giakoumakis, because I think if he was maybe, I'm not going to say if he was a domestic player, if he was a Scottish player, because I think it's just a case of he'd scored a late winner for Celtic to keep his top of the league.
He's rushing.
Aye, blood rush to the head. Somebody stuck a camera in his face as soon as he stepped off the pitch, and he's just said it. And when he said it, he can't take it back. So then, if you're Ange Postecoglou, you've then got to say to the player, go and back it up. And he has. He's came out and he's backed it up with goals, and he's 2 consecutive hat-tricks at Celtic Park. It's not been done since Larsson. For me, Giakoumakis was always a worry since that penalty miss against Livingston, which could have put us top of the league early in the season. But since then, I think he's really came onto a game. And I think it would be harsh on Maeda if he's dropped for Kyogo tomorrow. But I don't see any other kind of option for, you're not going to drop Giakoumakis for Kyogo tomorrow. So, as I say, I see Kyogo coming off the bench, last 20, 30 minutes to run at him.
And scoring an offside.
Sorry, we've not got VAR yet.
I love that.
We've not got VAR yet.
I know. People just when people say that's what I'm saying, I'm just like now, and I just turn my head. I'm like, do you know what? That is what it is. The rules are there. We don't have it. If he's that good at playing off his shoulder and it's that close, then fucking good for him. Good for him.
Aye. I think Del Boy Riley says Yeti to score the winner 96 minutes. That would be something. That would be absolute scenes. Michael Heggie says big man was very strong against you, but it was really strong in the last game, John. When you look at his performance against Rangers at Celtic Park in the 3-0 game, very unlucky not to score. Alan McGregor obviously had massive saves that night against him, kind of kept him out. What do you think about Giakoumakis' kind of almost his story this year in terms of how he's bounced back for where he was at that point in the penalty miss?
I think a lot of Celtic fans, including myself, doubted him after that. I think we've got to eat a little bit of humble pie. He's certainly came on to a game. He scores the goals which are very scrappy. They're not nice goals to see necessarily, but he scored one against Alloa and then it went a little bit dry. And then obviously he started his kind of goal scoring form now, which has been fantastic. He scores goals. He's a penalty box goal scorer. He can score headers. He can score tap-ins. He can score when the ball's been dropped by the keeper. It was against Dundee United in the Scottish Cup. It's been really good to see a player like that at Celtic. A player that we've been missing. In terms of our striking force, I think he will. I think he will score tomorrow. Actually, that's how confident I am in Giakoumakis. I think he's now at a point where we as the Celtic fans, are looking and going, well, is he our number one striker? Is that going to happen? Obviously, we've got Kyogo, who's already scored 12 this year, and he's been injured ever since St Johnstone. But Giakoumakis has been hitting hat-tricks and he's been scoring in important games.
And that's the thing. Obviously, as you say, some of the goals aren't the prettiest, but they all go in, they all count. And we'll get on to talking about the kind of, we'll go back to the first derby of the season, Billy. Philip Helander scored the only goal of the game. How massive was that for Rangers at the time when you think, if you came off the back of winning your first league title in 9 years, and obviously, then you win that game early doors, that the psychological kind of implications, did you think we confidently going on to win the league again after that game?
No, not really. I think after that game, I didn't really say much about it for a couple of days. It took a wee while for it to sink in. And when I actually thought about it, I kind of remember telling my dad in the car, I was just like, Dad, we played horrendous there. And I didn't think Celtic played well. I didn't think that Rangers played bad enough to lose the game. But I just thought Rangers get that one chance and they took it. Whereas you could sit and say Celtic probably had a good few chances and did they take it? That's the reason that Rangers got 3 points here. And that's so even before there was any kind of downturn, like with Celtic winning for the first time, so ever after that, I thought they've got to kind of look at that and go, that's not good enough going forward. The next time we need to be a lot better than that because obviously the role reverses and we go to Celtic Park and all the stuff with the tickets and not having any away fans and that. I'm like, God, you're just going to be in a lion's den in there, and if you're just going to get mauled, which obviously, as we see, the first half an hour, that's what happened. I think for the next 60 minutes, there was nothing really in it. It was just kind of like Celtic could have probably went on and done more, but they thought, why exert ourselves? Rangers are not doing anything here, and that's basically what happened. But I thought Rangers only started to play when we were 3-0 down there. And then the first game, I don't even think they started to play at all. They just got a bit of luck in the right area of the pitch and got a goal when Celtic did it. And I was quite disappointed. And I think the whole Gerrard going and Gio coming in is kind of caused a lot of the, like, it had to be done. I mean, there's nothing you could do about it. Gerrard went. That's the end of it. It's the same with Rodgers. Rodgers went. You had to deal with that aftermath. That's where it is. Where it is. But I think Gio came in and the stuff he had to change, he couldn't get going. I mean, he's still done okay right at the beginning, but I think it kind of caught up with him a month or two ago. And the run in Europe's not really helped, kind of trying to keep things flowing. He's dropped some major points where if it's just been terrible performance by Rangers, or else obviously I'm saying there's a couple of decisions that they never got on a day. I think that when they've seen Celtic right up their back, it's put pressure on them that they've not had for a while. I mean, a whole year of no pressure at all, barely, and then getting that, I think, and everything that was going on wrong at the football club, I just kind of thought they kind of went on and they kind of crumbled in a moment, and now they're playing catch up to it. I think they're playing well enough now, but the problem is they've not got that, especially with Morelos still there. I would say play Roof definitely as well, what you were saying earlier, but you also have to then tweak the other people about him. Like, I don't know. I think he'll change his team a wee bit tomorrow, actually. That's what I'm thinking anyway. But I think that Ryan Kent's key. Like, if he has a good game, then Rangers get a chance. If he is not at it and he's just running into corners and getting double teamed off Celtic defenders, I just think nothing will happen. That's it. Like, everyone, quite a lot of people I know, Celtic fans, tell me, "Oh, Ryan Kent's rubbish." I was like, do you know what? He's not rubbish. He's just not consistent enough for me. Like, I think when he's on, he's amazing when he can be, but I just don't think it's enough. He does the big games, though.
Aye, I think he was in Juranovic's pocket for the last game at Celtic Park, undoubtedly, do you know what I mean? But he is a player that I think is obviously key to Rangers' success this season and a potential success. I think in terms, you've seen it in Europe as well, he's really turned on. Not so much in the league. I know a lot of Celtic fans that I spoke to. John says, he's pointed out that obviously he's got the same amount of goals as Odsonne Edouard, and Edouard left in August and things like that. But at the end of the day, how many games has Ryan Kent won for Rangers? Just his general play and doing that, that cheeky wee Jamie Vardy leaving his leg in to get the fouls kind of thing.
He's a good player. He's a good player on the left hand side. I felt as though Ryan Kent always kind of done the same thing though with his movement, and I felt as though a lot of players have cottoned onto his movement. I don't get me wrong. I think players in Europe haven't cottoned onto it, so I think he does exceptionally well in European games.
I think in the Dortmund game, I think Dortmund knew it today, man, because he was just going for them.
Aye,
who's this guy?
Aye, but again, in some maybe league games, you maybe seen him, and I just kind of caught in kind of highlights and stuff like that. He would do the same kind of stuff, and players right backs would just catch him out, and they were able to tackle him. So the only kind of criticism of him would be that, but he does get a lot of goals, and he's got to be one of those players that Celtic tomorrow have got to be wary of. I think Juranovic, will probably be up against him, and he just has to control him.
I'm just laughing at that comment by David Pierotti. Kent is hit or miss like my local chippy. Comment of the night so far. Del Boy O'Reilly says, if we're down tomorrow, guys, can you see Ange changing it and going 2 up top? A change of formation we've never seen so far. I think Maeda and Giakoumakis are a potential Kyogo and Giakoumakis. I think could work. I do think it will be tried and tested, much like the Ross County team. I don't see there being much of a change for that team, Dale. But obviously, John, when you look at the first 2 games, obviously Celtic played really well at Ibrox, ultimately came away with nothing. We just weren't clinical enough, and you've got to take these chances when they fought you. And I think Edouard missed a couple of gilt-edged chances that day. But when you look at that team, even, I know we've been a team in transition this year, especially with the 2 transfer windows, but when you look at it, I think there was only 2 changes for the team that plays now. I think it was Ryan Christie and Edward was the only 2 that aren't there anymore at the club. So it's not that much a thing when we've came on, but obviously when you look at the players like Hatate and O'Reilly and players like that came in January, Adeguchi, obviously you kind of combat that with a 3-0 win. So do you think they're just more clinical and we knew what had went wrong at Ibrox in the first game?
I think we've actually it's ever since that game, it was so long ago, I just feel as though Celtic have went on this run of creating so many chances in games. I think that the idea that, we could create so many chances in a game that we could score loads of goals. If you told me it was going to be less at the start of the season, I would have chewed your hand off. I wouldn't have believed you, but I would have chewed the hand off if you told me this predicament that we were, very, very good at scoring, very good in terms of the number of goals we scored. The clinicalness of, the likes of Maeda, Giakoumakis, Kyogo, you've got and Jota as well. You've got to look at those and Abada. I mean, you've got to look at those players and go, well, these are fantastic players. They're goal scorers, but then equally, you've got pictures in like James Forrest against Livingston scoring. You get Tom Rogic scoring, and Hatate again. He's come in and scored goals. So all over the park, there's threats from Celtic, which I think is a very, very good thing. The only thing I could see, in terms of this year is just a system coming into formation, a system of attacking football that's just kind of finding its feet. But I think Ange is so good at grounding the players and letting them find that kind of grey area. And he's stuck to his system.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we saw the scenes today. The Celtic fans went to Lennoxtown to see the team off with the banners and smoke bombs. And listen, hopefully the players know that what this means. I know Cal was out in the press today, was saying, we know if we stick to a game plan and we get everything right on the day and what the manager's telling us to do, then we'll go and win the game, kind of thing. So I think he's grown as a captain obviously this season. But in terms of obviously when you look at players that potentially could play in the same team, obviously, listen, when this question always comes about and when you look at it, some Celtic fans will say, no putting any Rangers players in my team, and Rangers fans will say the same, or no Celtic players will get into the Rangers team and things like that. I don't know how many you guys have got in terms of what the split is between the Celtic and Rangers players this season on form, but obviously we're going to combined 11. So, John, who would make it into your Celtic Rangers team?
So a combined 11 for me would be I would start off in goals. I would actually based on form and important saves and just pure just because of his history of saving, I would pick McGregor over Joe Hart. And I know that might sound a little bit controversial because Joe Hart's done it in England.
The first controversial comment of the night, John.
I'm getting I'm out.
No, I mean, you've got to look at it, and I know what you're saying. I know they're off the game, he dropped the ball in the net, but in terms of quality, you've got to look at it and go, well, McGregor could just pick Joe Hart. It's close though, it's close. So I'd have McGregor in goals. The back four, I would have Juranovic in there, but on the other side of the pitch, I would have Barisic. I think Barisic is a very, very good player. And the back two, I would have Carter Vickers, of course. I think he's been absolutely solid this year. And I actually think wouldn't pick Golson. I would actually stick with Starfelt, and the reason I would stick with Starfelt is just because of his improvement overall. I think that's kind of worth noting. In the middle of the park, you've got to turn around and say McGregor's got to be in there, Callum McGregor. But I think that Ojo for Rangers has been brilliant. He's been good. I think he deserves something in there. And then going forward, a front three, I think, sadly for me, I think you've got the likes of maybe Abada or Jota. And then you've got, I'm going to say Morelos. I think you have to say Morelos. I think, and that's me. I'm picking a very balanced team. If you had to pick the balance, if Morelos is on form, as a pinnacle 11, does he score? I think that, he's a player that scores constantly and consistently. So if you had the gun to my head and you were saying who are you going to pick, that's my Celtic and Rangers starting 11.
That's a decent one. I don't think there's many kind of differences with the one I've picked. Billy, who kind of makes it into your Celtic Rangers team?
I was kind of just marking yours down there, just to kind of like I'd thought about it, and then as you've been talking, I've just absolutely ripped the sheet up and just went, "That's nonsense." See, the thing is, you guys, I thought that was a quite balanced. I'm actually surprised you picked so many Rangers players, even though, because I mean, it's not as if you've not got good reasons to put the Celtic players in. It's like you're not just putting them in for the sake of having I know you're saying it's balanced, but I mean, you've got right reasons. When I'm going forward, even though it's now, I'm still thinking a wee bit earlier on when Rangers were really on form, and then I'm thinking about European games, and I'm like trying to not to single out specific competitions, because, and I agree with McGregor, obviously, because I mean, it doesn't matter if he drops the ball. I mean, see the amount of times he saved Rangers. He could drop the ball another 30 times this season, and you'd still be in his debt. Do you know what I mean? I think that was it last season, the saves he made in one of Old Firm Derby. I've never seen saves like that.
Aye,
of anybody. And I mean,
it could have been 8 or 9 in the last by half time, but if it wasn't for McGregor,
just like that one where he's like clipping it with his fingertips and it's like getting onto the bar. I was just like, it literally could be close to double figures. So I mean, you have to kind of give him the kind of historical vote for that one. Like, he's done so much that you can't take him out just for having a bad couple of weeks. Do you know what I mean? I know we spoke about this earlier. I'm going to pick Juranovic, but I still want Patterson, but I'll pick Juranovic just because I'll take it on, because he did have him in his pocket in the last game, and I felt, do you know what, he's played really well, and he's an international player. He's actually, I thought he was a good player, but when he came in, I thought it would have took him longer to kind of get to the grips with the league and that, but he just kind of didn't even see. I thought he probably was playing for Dundee or something like that, and I didn't even know. So it felt like just came right in and just hit the ground running. 2 centre backs, I would say probably Carter Vickers. He would say. I think Starfeld's honking. I mean, I don't see Celtic every week. Every time I see him, he's making a mistake. So I've put Hillander just for another Swedish person.
Hillander, fair enough.
I like Hillander though, because I think he's not played enough because of the injury and that, but he would be my player because I think he's Goldson's rash sometimes. He's done it in European leagues and that, and I think he's really, and he always comes up with a random goal when you need him. So that's why I would have picked him in there. And apart from that, I'm like, there's not really anybody else I would say. I mean, I actually kind of like Balogun as well, but once again, he makes some rash decisions that I think, especially in a game like tomorrow, he would cause an issue, I think. So I've picked Hillander. And even though you said you didn't think he was very good, I've picked Bassey at left back. I would have probably picked, but every time I've seen Bassey, I don't know what it is, if it's just like youthful energy. He's just always positive, and he does get caught out sometimes, but he kind of reminds me of like Alan Hutton years ago. You know, that kind of like steam train marauding. Plus, he's bigger than Alan Hutton, so I mean, he will get caught out really bad one time and cause something bad, but he's just exciting to watch going forward. So that's why I've picked him. But I mean, I did really feel bad not picking Barisic, but I'm kind of thinking of the last Old Firm game for that one. Midfield is just a mine. I don't know. I've picked McGregor. I think McGregor, yes, that's 100% the Celtic player. And I'm once again now thinking of form, like other people, like who would I put in, because I couldn't pick Rangers players. Aribo's been the best player at Rangers this season. Jack, you can't go without Jack, but then I'd have to leave Kamara out. So I don't know. I would just pick 2 of them. I think that Hatate has done really well, and I would have picked him, but I just think that he's come in new, and I've not seen enough of him to be in my personal
I think that's the problem with picking January players sometimes. When,
I think
you don't see enough of them.
In a year's time, if we were all in the same position, I'd probably be picking maybe him if he keeps the kind of form going that he's been doing.
Yeah.
Because I just think that I've not seen enough of him to like oust somebody I've been watching for years. Do you know what I mean? And the front three, I'm with you. I nearly picked Kyogo. Actually, I don't know who I'd pick with Kyogo or Morelos. I would pick Kyogo on form, Morelos on what he gives to, but not the actual goal scoring. But I can't play any of them out wide because I've picked Kent and Jota.
That's a pretty decent team, to be fair, chatting. Like,
do you know what? I'm going to, since you did it, I'll go on balance and I'll pick Kyogo instead of Morelos. It's a toss-up. They're completely different people, but they'll both score goals and they both give you so much in different departments. So you could pick any of them and your team would be better. Do you know what I mean?
I think there has been a kind of balance. It started off balanced and it's kind of went a bit skew. But obviously Joe Hart, I've went with in goals, just for his important saves this season, for the amount of clean sheets he's had, and for the fact he's a big sexy guy, and just like absolutely stunning, and just superb. I've went for Tav at right back. I just think you're always going to get a penalty with him. He's always going to tuck it away 9 times out of 10. So, for me, I've went for him. Carter Vickers and Goldson. I just think Goldson, as I say, can pop up with a goal. Probably a bit more
maybe
than
2.
Starfelt. Obviously, Starfelt's, no being that kind of... I know he's a defender, but, you expect a defender to bang in a couple of goals a season. But for me, Goldson and Carter Vickers take it back to, and Joseph playing at left back. We know he plays at left back as well as right back. So for me, I don't rate Greg Taylor enough, but I just think Greg Taylor's very Marmite. I think you either love him or you hate him. And I think he's a solid defender and he will give you 100%. But there's nothing glamorous about him. There's nothing spectacular about him. So that would be my back 4. And then, as I say, middle 2, I'd be going Kalmak and Rogic for me. Rogic has been revitalised under Ange, and Callum McGregor is the best midfielder in Scottish football for me. Kind of Abada, I would be playing almost just in front of the two there. Because I love Abada. I think he plays better through the middle. We've only seen him a few times through the middle. So for me, Abada plays through the middle, and obviously Jota and Kent supporting Jackie Marcus. I think Kent definitely gets the nod there for me. There's potentially put Abada and Jota out wide, but and probably put somebody like Aribo or Kamara through the middle. But for me, that would be my team. But as I say, like it's always good to get a balanced kind of debate about who would go into the one team.
I'll just add something in there, guys. I don't think a lot of Rangers fans would pick Tavernier in their team. I know a lot of Rangers fans that are frustrated with Tav. I don't know why.
Do you know what? Like, I'm not going to sit and say I forgot. Obviously, I didn't forget, but I was too busy juggling with, because I was a big fan of Patterson, and even watching him for Scotland now, I'm just like, he's going to be amazing, like when he gets to like where he needs to be, and that's why. And then obviously, I think Juranovic was really good in the last game, and that's why I picked him. I think Tav's he's just that player he's there now, and it was his. That's why Patterson never got a run in the team, because he's captain. See, if he hadn't been captain, I think he would have been dropped, and then Patterson would have been in at right back, and you never know what could have happened. But like, I'm looking at it and I'm genuinely like, when you're going through, you've picked obviously all Celtic. That's, strong midfield. You think Celtic, that's the best midfield? It very well could be. But I'm absolutely devastated that I couldn't find a space for Kamara. I love Kamara, but he's just...
I think he's been a great buy for Rangers, to be honest.
I think it's either him or Aribo, or else him or Jack. And see, when Jack plays, Jack just changes a game. He's just... I never noticed it that much. Like, seeing his kind of early years and that, I thought, he's a good player. But when you watch him now and you're just like, I don't know what it is. He just changes the midfield and it's just more confident, and he's just awareness. He's just really good at it. So see, in order to take Jack out to put Kamara in, I was like, oh no, I can't do that. So I was against the wall for that one.
Would Scotty Arfield make your team, Billy?
I like what he's about, and I like his digging at. But if you were talking on like sheer talent and that, I think there's better players in the positions that he would play there. I couldn't move Aribo. Aribo has just been like, see, if you just watch him, he's just so much better than... He's the best player in the Rangers squad, like, technically. Like, see, just his footwork and that, and like he'll play at a higher level. Like, do you know what I mean? He will. I mean, whether Rangers get a fee for him or his contract runs out and he goes for free, and he'll go to a higher level because he's got it with better players around him. But Scott Arfield's got something that he's not got though, and that's that dig and like he knows he goes into this game tomorrow and he knows he's got to win that battle if he's playing. If he doesn't win that battle, he'll know right away he's shafted. He knows, and you can't teach that to somebody. You need to know what it's about. Like, see, like,
I mean, I was watching an Old Firm game years ago, and it was, I think it was Barry Ferguson, probably as a young boy, and I think he went through a challenge, and he done that to the crowd with a fist pump up, and the look on his face, look of pure hatred on his face. I thought that's what you need in a player. That's what Rangers probably have been missing. Players that know what it takes to play for the club and play for the badge kind of thing.
See when you look at like the last decade, just as a kind of period of time, even though he came into it from Hibs. Oh, still on. You'd be looking at like and just going, he won Celtic so many games.
Aye.
And it's just being him. Which is like what I would say Arfield could be. We're never going to get to that kind of status because he's not here long enough and he's not won enough trophies, but that's what he gives you and that's what Ferguson gave you in the early 2000s. He just knew what Rangers were about and he was a Rangers fan and he was getting every tackle 100%. You can't teach that. You just need to have that.
Aye, absolutely. I totally agree. And obviously, this is games when you're going to miss, like said Scott Brown and things like that. Del Boy says, other than Taylor, Celtic have 10 players on my side, probably green tinted specs. I probably imagine it is. Michael Heggie says, good keeper Alan McGregor, but angry man. He is, and that's what Celtic need to capitalise on tomorrow for me. They need to get in his face, they need to annoy him, get and toke him, because that's when you see him kind of losing the plot almost. Michael Heggie also says, Big Julian not playing because not up to speed of Angie's style. I don't know what's going to really happen with Julian. Probably we'll know more next year. John, do you see Julian possibly getting into that team next year, depending obviously what happens with Carter Vickers in the loan deal?
Well, I think, Angie's got to look at it from a sense that we've spent a lot of money on the guy, and we've got to imagine that, he has still got something to offer. I don't know. I think it's up in the air. I think it just depends whether or not we have the room for him, first of all, and whether or not maybe Ange wants another player in. We just don't know. I think I can see maybe featuring in a couple of maybe pre-season games. But does he go out of contract this year? Is that right, or is it next year?
I think it might be this year, but obviously it just depends on whether. I mean, for me, I'd still be giving him another year or two at least, just to see how he goes, kind of thing.
He's young. He's young. He was good enough that the year that we played last year, he was good. In many aspects. And I was quite impressed with him. I was quite impressed with his goal at Hampden as well. So he could chip in for goals sometimes. So yeah, maybe it's worth getting another contract deal going. Carter Vickers, though, I think if we're talking about central defenders that we need to sign, I think that's a priority.
Aye, definitely. I think that deal will be done depending on if we win the league. I think if we win the league, I think the deal will definitely be done. Listen, guys, we'll go into best Derby day goals. Going to get you to pick your best. Probably, I'm going to get you to pick a best Celtic goal and a best Rangers goal that you've ever seen in a derby game.
I'll let you go first.
Okay, I'll start off with actually Rangers. One of the best goals I've ever seen was Pedro Mendes at Celtic Park.
Oh my God!
On his debut.
The low drill bit, honestly, from distance, the way he connected and the way in which it had power, I don't know if it was like maybe half a foot above the ground, but it just literally, I've never seen so much power in a shot in my life. I thought that was a very well taken, shot of goal. And another one for me, for Celtic, I think Nakamura from distance, where the ball went in this banana shape. And it just went in. I thought those two were fantastic goals. I was tossed up between that and Alan Thompson's goal that hit the bar and bounced in. I thought that was fantastic. But again, I think that goal's incredible that Naka scored.
Do you know?
And Billy, what do you think, Billy?
I miss it. See, the Mendes one was amazing. But obviously, sometimes it comes close to the games and you start looking at old goals just to kind of excite you, cheer you up and stuff. And I've not done that in like a while, like even the last couple of derbies. But the one I have watched Pedro Mendes' one. It just came up in a compilation. I was like, I remember how.
I think that was the one the corner came in, the ball came close to the corner, and it just smashed in the bottom corner.
It's just because you know what, like I know he'd played in England and that, but still not many people kind of knew anything about him really. And just when he hit it, you were like, where did that come from? How is that? I mean, he didn't even look as if he really put his foot properly right through it. He just kind of connected and it just arrowed right. And the goalie was like, he didn't even know what was happening. He dived in and he turned around and he's like, "Where's the ball?" And it was just such a strange goal. It was a good goal, but it was just such a strange kind of hit. But it was obviously got the place going crazy. I think that game finished 4-2. I'm pretty sure.
Aye, I think it did. Was that the game Kenny Miller scored? I think he came back to Celtic Park and scored.
Mm-hmm. I think. Do you know what? It's so hard to pick out goals. I'd imagine as Celtic fans, your goal, the one of the goals that I remember, like Celtic ones, is just obviously Larsson's that one. 6-2. I mean, like you were just like that. And you watch. See, like, I remember it was. I can't remember where I was. I was watching that back, but it wasn't like watching that game. I think it was somebody posted it, like a Celtic fan posted it on their timeline, and I was kind of like scrolling, and it just came up. And when it came up, that happened on it, and I was just like, it showed, and I just stopped and watched it, and I just went, oh, man, he just absolutely annihilated like half a Rangers team here, and they didn't even know where they were. And then when he chipped it, and you could see like the ball boys already jumping before it even went in, you're just like that, like.
I can still remember that, every kind of part of that goal. Much like you watch these goals, and we could be sitting here all night talking about what our favourite goals were in these games, kind of thing. For me, as I say, my favourite Celtic goal is between probably Nakamura and Larsson. But for me, the Larsson goal, that is the best goal there's ever been in a Celtic Rangers game. For me, I just think, the build up to the goal, the fact that Larsson, I think he nutmegged Bert Conterman on his way there, and obviously then just gives glossy eyes and dinks it over him. John, I think John was probably a babe in arms when Henrik scored that goal. I'm a bit an older kind of era, and probably for, there's been so many good goals for Rangers over the years, like, as you say, Pedro Mendes. I think Jamie Ness hit an absolute screamer at Ibrox as well. But for me, probably I'm going to go back to Jonas Tierney at Ibrox. And the ball came across, and it was kind of spinning, and it was a horrible, horrible kind of wet day, and he just hits it absolutely flush, and it just flies in the top corner. And the keeper is, you could have 2 or 3 keepers in the goals that day. They were never going to save it. It was an unbelievable strike. I don't even know what the final score was that day. Probably Rangers would have won through the Ibrox, and I think Rangers won a lot of the games back then. But no, for me, that would be my 2 kind of best goals that I've seen. But just in terms of, we're going to just finish on, obviously, score predictions tomorrow.
Hold on, I never done my Rangers one.
Did you not do your Rangers one?
No.
Are you just going to throw another one in?
I'm not going to get into detail about it. I couldn't decide between the Hugo Ekeog one.
Oh, upset that day. That was horrible.
I just know because it was just such a strange goal, and then obviously years later, and he's no longer with us and all that. And so that one, but then also I remember the Tony Andre Flo kind of flick one as well. That was a strange goal as well. Just such an awkward way to score, but I mean that's insane. And Rangers Celtic games, there's many of them, and they all count.
So obviously, in terms of then score predictions, how do you see it going tomorrow, Billy?
My heart says Rangers will day with the day in your European games and put out a performance, whether it's Celtic put out a performance and it makes it a thrilling game and we end up with a 3 each or something like that. But if that happens, I think if Rangers play as good as they can and Celtic aren't really, or just a couple of times they played recently, they've been good enough to win the game, but they probably haven't lit it up. I think Rangers could win it, but I'd probably say it's going to be a score. I feel like 3-2 or something like, or 2-1, around about that. But I think obviously that's my heart talking, my head talking recently. I think Celtic have got as good a chance to beat Rangers at Ibrox now and really kind of put the kind of dagger in at the last minute. I think it's now this is a chance, because if Rangers don't turn up like they did the last 2 games, then they're definitely there for the taking. And no Morelos is obviously a worry, but it depends what he does with his tactics. If he gets his tactics right and he gets into the game without getting hit on the counter, I think it'll be a really good game. But I would hope Rangers could do it, but on the performances this season, it's swinging with Celtic, but obviously Rangers can play that well, so I'm hoping that that's what's going to happen.
And John, obviously, do you think there'll be goals in it? Do you think there'll be a thrilling game?
I think there'll be plenty of goals. I think there'll be. I think they'll be end to end. Actually, I think it'll be very exciting. I said there'd be. I think it'd be. I think a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago, I was really confident. I think even off camera, I was really confident. But now, as I'm heading towards the kind of game, I'm thinking, will Rangers bring a system, that will, be almost the equivalent of Celtic versus Bodo Glimt. Bodo Glimt brought a system and managed to overcome Celtic twice. Let's not forget, we're not invincible. We're a team that can be undone, even though we've scored lots of goals this season. So I think both teams will score, but I think Celtic will nick it. I think Celtic will win either 3-1 or 3-2. So I'm going to go with 3-2.
I think Celtic will. I think Celtic will probably win tomorrow. I'm hoping that we'll start off the better team, obviously, and we can hit them early. I'm hoping Dyson, if he plays, I'm hoping Maida's pace up against the Rangers defence will terrorise them, and hopefully Big Jackie Marcus can get off the mark with his goals against Rangers, hopefully. But I think, listen, it could go either way. I know me and Billy were talking off air, and I says to him, the butterflies were starting to kick in. And I'd been fine all day, but I think I just thought about it and thought, God, what this means, because, I said to Simon Donnelly and Barry Ferguson on Go Football show last night that I said that if Celtic win tomorrow, the league's done. I don't see Rangers coming back for a 6-point deficit and however many goals kind of thing. So I think that the league will be done tomorrow if we win. I'll take a 1-0. Right now, I'll take a 1-0 because these games are never the way you think they're going to go. And I'll tell you, the only Celtic Rangers game that I've woke up and I've been really, really confident about was the day we won the league at Celtic Park and we won 5-0. And I know that it's chalk and cheese, Billy, with the teams, obviously, in terms of the Rangers team that day and things like that. And again, Jack Annick that day probably kept the score to a respectable 5. But, it could have been double figures that day. And I think that was the only confidence I had going into one of these games. So I'll probably be a nervous wreck tomorrow. But listen, I think if we play the way we have been playing, and I'm hoping with that the players going to meet the fans this morning. Hopefully that's going to give them an extra wee G up. But listen, I know we're all hoping for goals and excitement, and it's probably going to be enough in each now that we've all said that. But it's, but no, as I say, like Michael Haig obviously says, enjoy your day tomorrow, everyone. I've been listening all night, and it's sirens going mental outside, absolutely nuts. So it's already kicking off, I think. But listen, guys, enjoy your day tomorrow, whatever the score is. Billy, if we win, I'm not replying to any emails. No, I can't. And obviously, listen. Obviously, everybody stay safe. Wherever you're watching the game, it's listen. At the end of the day, I know it's life and death to us Celtic and Rangers fans sometimes, but it is just a game. So, go and enjoy the game tomorrow. I want to say thanks to Billy and John, obviously, for coming on. The numbers have been really great tonight. The comments have been brilliant. And obviously, if you want to check us out on the socials, Celtic FC Appreciation. We're all over that's a great finish to the show. It's gone so well enough. Great finish to the show there. Nearly wrecked the place. No, you can check us out on our YouTube channel. Done a daily content video yesterday. And obviously check us out on the podcast on Spotify and Apple Music. Just download Celtic FC Appreciation and leave us a review and subscribe. So, we'll be back next. When do we play? Next Saturday after tomorrow. So obviously we'll be discussing tomorrow's game, and we'll obviously be discussing the St John's game as well as what's happened that week with Celtic. But listen, guys, keep liking the page and keep following the podcast. And as I say, guys, enjoy your day tomorrow.
Thanks again. Cheers, guys.